met Felix Sharpe, if I'm not mistaken, on Mackinac Island, and he's on the other end of our AT&T line right this very moment. He's the Director of Behavioral Health Integration for the state of Michigan, a Cuban-born American, and we often talk about Cuba because he travels there frequently. He's with us right now. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Michael Patrick. We did meet on Mackinac Island, and it's incredible the resemblance between the Hotel Nacional in Havana, Cuba, and the Grand Hotel in Mackinac City, Michigan.
Yeah, in fact, we've been lucky enough I have to have visited both of those places, and you're right. It's a beautiful place to sit and relax and look down in the case of Cuba over the Malecon and the ocean there, and of course you're looking at the Straits of Mackinac from Grand Hotel. But I was really curious to talk to you because Raul Castro is praising Pope Francis for brokering relations between Cuba and the U.S. Now, I remember Pope John Paul II really was one of the people largely responsible for the freedom in Poland and bringing down the Soviet Union. Is Pope Francis really to be credited for the U.S.-Cuba relation thaw?
Absolutely. The Vatican, as we now know, participated significantly and pushed for the two countries to begin to have discussions, and actually hosted in October of last year a meeting between the United States and Cuba.
Pope is going to visit Cuba on his way to the United States in September, and I also thought it was very, very interesting. You can tell me, put this sort of in context, when Raul Castro said that he's going to attend all of the masses, the Pope says, he says, I promise to go to all his masses and with satisfaction.
Yes.
And then he says, I read all the speeches of the Pope, his commentaries, and if he continues to go this way, I'll go back to praying and go back to the church, and I'm not joking. That's what he said.
And he apparently meant that. He actually went on, Michael Patrick, to say to the Pope that I'm communist, and it goes against the principles of communism, but it's further indication that we are changing socially, politically, and economically. And Cuba is very appreciative of the Vatican, and not just with Pope Francis, but the Vatican has been pushing for decades now for the two countries to normalize relations. And Cuba is extremely appreciative of the Vatican, and will continue to be.
Why can't communism and Catholicism coexist, or can they?
Well, in the case of the Republic of Cuba and the Cuban Revolution in 1959, after the triumph of the revolution, essentially the country was put on lockdown, and religion was completely, not just Catholicism, but all religion was completely eliminated on the island. It wasn't until about 1990 that those standards had begun to be relaxed, and the people were allowed to again begin to practice religion. So it wasn't just against Catholicism; it was religion in general. And the reason I have been able to evaluate is because the overall intent of putting the country on lockdown and establishing a totalitarian government back then was to eliminate any possibility of a coup d'etat of any type, or any country coming into Cuba and trying to overthrow the government, as was the case with the Bay of Pigs invasion, which was financed and supported by the United States in 1964. So,
who could forget when Pope John Paul II went to Poland and spoke in front of a giant crowd, and for 16 minutes, 16 consecutive minutes, that giant crowd chanted, "We want God. We want God." And
yes.
They must have known at that moment that this was irreversible.
Absolutely, and we know that the Catholic Church has for centuries played a part in moving governments towards goodwill and the better cause of humanity. And in this case, Pope Francis and the Catholic Church have been a significant help to the process, and it will be something, I'm sure, to witness how he will be received in Cuba when he travels there in September.
Any chance you'll be there when it happens?
You know, I've been looking for an opportunity to get back to the island, and I'm actually planning a trip for a number of friends who are interested to travel in the fall. So quite possibly that might be an opportune time.
Boy, I hope so. And will we see you on Mackinac Island this year?
I probably won't get there, Michael Patrick, this year, but my thoughts will be with you.
Thank you. I'll have a mojito for you.
I appreciate that, Michael Patrick.
A Mackinac Island mojito for Felix Sharpe Caballero.